Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another Nerd Tube topic discussion. I am joined by the Block. Blocky, how you doing?
That's me. I'm doing fine.
And today we're going to be talking about Gargoyles. In my opinion, one of the best series to come out of cartoons of the '90s, as well as a Disney product. So like Disney has it in them to make good cartoons. So we know they can do it. Like we know they can do good cartoon series that are like darker and a little more mature themes. So anyway, let's just start talking about gargoyles. So what's your block? What's your favorite gargoyle? Let's start with that.
Oh, my favorite gargoyle. Whew. I'd have to go with Brooklyn because he was like the quasi leader and he wasn't too, I don't know, I guess I related to him more, but obviously now I relate more and like Goliath better, but I'm going to stick with Brooklyn. Um, but I mean, they're all good except for, I don't really like, what was the dude's name? Broadway. Like, Broadway's like whatever. Like, I think he's just a comedy character. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I would actually agree with you. Uh, Bronx, right? That's the red one. He is he is definitely the one that I really feel like because I mean he was a leader when Goliath went away, so for all that time, and he was really struggling with that for a while. I remember a handful of episodes while Goliath was gone, he kind of got to a chance to shine as leader, and he was trying to figure things out and being a good leader. But I mean nobody, and I mean nobody, not even James Earl Jones has a voice like the actor who does Goliath. I mean, you just want to kind of sit there and let him talk
mhm,
you to sleep. He's just got that sweet, sweet, deep voice.
deep voice.
So, yeah. So yeah, I mean, and I love the fact that this show started off in like a 5 episode arc, like a 5 episode like part 1 through 5, because it all was very seamless. You could probably just watch it nonstop. And yeah, it was super like a really cool just like way to show that hey, this is not an episode, this is not so much an episodic show, it's also like uh serialized. So um
Mhm.
it's not serialized is the right word I'm looking for, right? Syndicate, no,
That
syndicated is
sounds
not the
right.
word.
Yeah.
Serialized.
Syndic
Yeah, it was syndicated, but serialized is like they were telling longer stories, not just like the episode by episode. Oh no, Broadway got his hand stuck in the ice machine again. Gotta get it out by the end of the episode.
Right. They,
So,
even overall, the season's kind of linked somewhat. So yeah.
and they
And then
did
I would
kind of
have to
evolve
say
some
that I
things.
didn't even know that. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I got a little bit of sound lag, but I was just gonna say that I didn't even know it was a Disney series till like years later, because not that Disney made like bad cartoons, but I was used to like DuckTales, Gummy Bears, and whatnot. Like I think this was the first darker Disney series, at least far as TV. They made some darker movies like Sword in the Stone and whatnot that were a little edgier, but as far as like a TV series, I want to say Gargoyles was one of the first.
Oh yeah, I mean, gummy bears. You're right. What was pretty dark. I mean, they were bouncing on their booties, so that was pretty. That was like keeping up with the Kardashians before it was a thing. Um, but anyway,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, I mean, like it did, and I think there was an actual episode with like gun violence. It was a gun violence where it's where Broadway accidentally shot Lisa, or what was her name? Why am I drawing a
Yeah,
blank?
I want to say Detective. No, Eliza. Man, you think
Eliza,
since I
yeah,
just watched it? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they're one of the first shows to tackle like that kind of like gun violence, where it's like you accidentally shoot someone because you're playing with a gun. Like I remember hearing that it was like one of the first shows to tackle that.
Hmm.
So, out of like all the villains, like you have Xanatos, you have Demona, you have Macbeth, you have the what is it? Not the wild group. What are they
The
called?
pack,
The pack. Yeah.
I
What
believe.
what
Yeah.
what? Yeah. No, I think you're right. What would you say is like your favorite like villain?
Oh man. Um, because Demona was kind of a villain for a while, but then you kind of saw why she went that way. And then Xanatos obviously started as the main villain, and then I think he got married or whatever. So, I don't know. I don't think he was a villain, but I didn't like Puck. Like that dude and the big, like how he ended up being Xanatos's like assistant Owens. Like that was a big, like what's going on, like that whole time. So I'd stick with Puck because he's just annoying.
Yeah. I completely forgot about that actually. Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty big plot twist from the original from like back when they were originally uh before they were stoned. um so I do appreciate one of the things that they did in this show was that they really went back and they really like like they spent time in the past like before like by the end of the first episode you were not in modern times. That was like what episode 3 I think is when you got to
Hmm.
modern time where they were Xanatos was moving the castle above the clouds and yada yada. Like that was episode 3. So you really have to appreciate a show that takes its characters and situations seriously, and it's like, look, we're gonna take time. We're gonna show you why this is like a a tragedy that these gargoyles are actually like dead and or frozen for years.
Yeah, and it had like the first ones were really like it had kind of historical significance, and it wasn't just like, oh, we're in the past. Like I don't know, it just felt like for uh for a Disney cartoon at the time, you're like, oh, and you're kind of, I wouldn't say you're learning stuff, but it's just deeper. It's not like you said earlier, oh, somebody's got their hand in the ice machine. Let's see if he gets it out. There is depth to it, and I liked how they introduced new characters, but didn't like oversaturate it with just introducing characters just to introduce characters to like, I don't know, sell a toy line or whatever, which they did sell toys, but um,
Mhm.
it didn't seem like they were pushing merch like that.
I mean, they really did. And I like a lot of the villains had a lot of growth. Like because I know the pack and like in the first episode that they were in was like this just ragtag group of like what were they like celebrity hunters or something like that. Like you know, and then by the end they're like one of them turns over a new leaf, another one turns into like a half cyborg, another one turns into like to something was I can't remember, but something was Xanatos or something. So I mean, there's actually a lot
Hmm.
there's actually a lot of good character development in some of these bad guys. I know Macbeth and Xanatos had or no, Macbeth and Demona had some kind of character arc together. Even they're both villains. Xanatos definitely had a character arc. And I mean, Xanatos. I'd say probably my favorite villain is Xanatos for nostalgia reasons, only because I was a big Trekkie growing up, as you probably know. Um, don't look at my shirt.
Right.
I'm wearing a Star Trek shirt. But but
Got my Sesame Street shirt on.
Big Sesame Street. But anyway, but there were a lot of Star Trek actors. Like Demona was voiced by Deanna Troy. Riker voiced Xanatos. There were other ones that I can't remember right now. I think Brent Spiner voiced. Oh, there was one villain that Brent Spiner voiced. I think it was Puck actually. Um, but so there was a ton of just uh, Trek alums in Gargoyles, but still, I mean, it was a great. I don't know, but that's why Xanatos's character always because it was really funny because he brought the Gargoyles to be, but then he made his own Gargoyle clan. Like it was always interesting. I'm just like, well, why does he need the Gargoyles if he has the Metal Clan? Like I it always kind of it was he was a big mystery to me for a long time, and I think he
It,
just was looking for a
it,
purpose.
right. I think it was kind of like to a bad analogy, but like in Pokemon, Team Rocket's always after Pikachu, even though they could get their own Pikachu. I just think he felt, oh, I just want them, so I have to have them. Like it's just something he was getting denied, so he wanted it, basically.
Well, didn't most of the first season he was in jail, right? Like, wasn't he? Yeah, he was for in jail for most of the first season. So I mean,
Yeah.
it was really interesting because the Gargoyles just had the run of the castle, and the what's his face ran the business, and Xanatos was in jail, but he eventually got out.
Yeah, I don't even know what Xanatos does other than I guess he's a quasi Tony Stark. Like he
Oh, he
sold
is abs.
like
Yeah, he sold
military
weapons.
stuff.
Yeah, he's an absolute Tony Stark. Yeah, he's what happens if Tony Stark went good and not bad. Because
Hmm.
Tony Stark's the bad guy. Um, well, okay. Well, let's talk about a couple of the actual characters really quick. So what were your impressions of just like let's the side characters like Lexington? Like, I mean, I always kind of thought he was a goofball. He was okay, but I wasn't fond of him. And
Right.
he's the
I
gadget
mean, I
guy.
liked him more than Broadway. Yeah, he's the Donatello. I
Yeah,
mean, he came into he had I guess the most heart of all of them. I guess that's what they were going for. Um, so that's how I viewed him. Like he had heart and he could tinker with stuff. So
yeah. And we're going to continue on the Turtles comparisons when we go to Broadway, who, as you're not a fan of, but is the Michelangelo of the group. And actually, I didn't mind him all that much. I actually thought he was pretty fun. Um, so he did have his moments and episodes, but I see why you don't like him. Like I'm not sitting here saying, oh, you I don't know why you don't like him. Like I didn't mind him as much, but I can see why people would be annoyed by him for the most part. I don't know anything you can think about him that you were fond of or anything.
well, like I said, I don't like hate him. I just don't mind him. I'm like, I mean, he kind of had to be there to round out the gargoyle, thing, but
Literally
it was
rounded
like
out.
whatever. Yeah, I mean, I feel like he did more than a Hudson, and Hudson wouldn't get the same like negative um, connotations because Hudson pretty much most of the season sat on a couch watching TV.
He did.
So
And the next one I was going to get to the Master Splinter of, because I consider Hudson more of a Master Splinter type character. He's the one who's like, sitting around doing he can kick butt if he needs to, but he doesn't really want to. Like
yeah,
he's just kind of done. Um, so yeah, I mean, like the Master Splinter one, Hudson. I always liked Hudson. He was interesting. I would love. I don't remember if they did this, but I'd love to see more flashbacks of Hudson. I don't remember them doing flashbacks for Hudson's like backstory. Um,
hmm
but I would be interested to see a little bit of that if they ever revive the series. I know the voice actor is no longer with us, so they would either have to recast or just reboot the whole series. But I always thought his because he was kind of the right hand person to the former leader, if I remember right. That's why Goliath, when he took over as leader, chose Hudson because he was the right hand guy. So,
right.
what are your what? So I we're as we're turtles comparisons. Or not Bronx, yeah, Bronx. So would you consider him a Leonardo or a Raphael?
You have Brooklyn or Bronx? Because Bronx was the dog, kind
Or
of
Bronx
the
is the dog.
dog
That's right.
of the gargoyle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
yeah,
I'm sorry. No, Bronx is the dog. He was cute. I liked him, but I mean, he was just kind of there to be
yeah.
there. He's a mascot.
Yep.
No, I'm sorry, Brooklyn. Brooklyn, you're right.
Yeah, I'd consider him more. Well, he grew into kind of the Leonardo role, but he was kind of like Raphael, where he kind of like, I kind of want to be like he was a hothead sometimes. And, he was younger and inexperienced, but like he wasn't quite like a Raphael. He wasn't that short tempered, but
He was.
he grew
I
into his
always felt like
role.
he was.
Like,
I always felt like he was a little bit of like a hybrid, between Leonardo and Raphael. Um, so, and then I mean, so Goliath. I mean, what's there more to say about him? He is the ultimate badass. I'm sorry, like Goliath is like one of the best characters ever in like any cartoon ever. He's your no nonsense leader that really just he's a leader. He leads by example, and he also leads by uh just by influence. Like he doesn't even have to say anything. Like, and the people know what they know what they want, that he wants from them. He demands respect and he gets it, and that's what I like about him, because he's not your reluctant leader. He's not your second guessing himself leader. He's like, no, I am the leader. I am making decisions. I am doing what I need to do. And he tells them too. He's like, you stay here. I'm taking so and so with me. Or someone's like, oh, I want to go. No, you stay here. I need you to guard blah blah blah, just in case if at sunrise something happens or whatever. So Goliath has always been a really really great leader in my opinion. I would love to see like if they did like a Crisis on Infinite cartoons, and like Goliath and Leonardo kind of cross, because those are my two favorite leaders in cartoons. Cyclops in the 90s animated series, Leonardo and Goliath. And I would love to see those three like lead a team of just, a mixed smash of, 90s animated things. I mean, you could throw Optimus Prime in there, but I wasn't a huge Transformers kid. Like, I didn't watch it as much, but you know, I don't know. What are your thoughts on
Right.
Goliath?
Um, well, Goliath was like pretty much what you said, and then like I said, like you said earlier, also about the voice. It's like, man, that voice could do anything. Be your voicemail or whatnot. Um, Also, he was very. You could see that even though, despite losing his clan and being betrayed by humans over and over again, that he learned to trust, and he, I guess, always had forgive. Like he wasn't like you could understand if he would act out and like start killing humans, but then he's like, no, each human's an individual, and like you could see like he went through a lot, and I was amazed that he kept his composure, I guess, through most of the
Yeah.
series.
And then I'll bring up Demona, who is a part of the clan, but not because she's kind of been disowned. I mean, she had a really, because she was cursed with a spell where she was, instead of turning into stone during the day, she turned into a human during the day,
Mhm.
which was kind of interesting. Um, I'm trying to remember. That was she had the human part like throughout all of history, right? Like uh she didn't turn to stone every night like throughout history. She would turn human, or was that later on in the series when that happened?
I want to say it's later on because she had the two spells, right? Because I remember watching, um, I guess it was season 2, where they show that some of the eggs survived from the hatchery, and she like was leading gargoyles back in 1,000 years ago, and then she was turning old, and then that's when that spell got cast. But I do get mixed
Yeah.
up. I know she was linked to Macbeth, but I forgot if that was two different spells, her and Macbeth, and then her being young. But yeah, basically magic.
Yeah, magic. Yeah. Doctor Strange magic, Doctor Fate magic, whatever. But yeah, no, I Demona was always an interesting character because you could always tell her convictions were trying to please Goliath and uh trying to protect like her race, but at the same time like she didn't agree with anything they did. Like, she always was at odds with Goliath with everything. um so I mean, that was always an interesting dynamic for me, because normally you see, like, in those cartoons you see like a lot of people. That's what this show was so good. It was so diverse because usually everybody's on the same page and everything like that. But like Demona, she was a villain, but she wasn't like, I want to destroy the gargoyles. She's just like, I want to save the gargoyles the way I want to save them, not the way you want to save them. I want to save them. We are superior. We need to survive. Goliath is like, no, we need to still work with humans. So it was always a very fun. It was just so great for my teenage brain to try to wrap my mind around this more of a complex character, that had good intentions, but had a different perspective, a long perspective, as
Mhm.
opposed to Goliath's perspective, which was short term.
Right, because she has a
Um,
1,000 years to get bitter and whatnot.
mhm. So, would you want a reboot? You think, or would you want a continuation, or with a couple recasts? Because I think some of the actors aren't around anymore, but we still have Jonathan Frakes as Anatos, Deanna Troy and Brent Spiner is still around. Obviously, those actors are still around. I think a lot of the A lot of the voice actors for, except for Hudson, a lot of the voice actors for the Gargoyles are. So they could technically do a continuation. I don't know if I'd want it to be like 20 years later, like this has been. I don't. I more prefer it
Mhm.
probably to pick up maybe just a year or two after the end of the series, or continue on after the cliffhanger. Because you said the series ended in a cliffhanger. As I said, it's been a long time since I've watched that long season. What is it? The end of second half of season 2 and then season 3. But
Mhm. Well, personally, I was surprised they never made a video game. I mean, they might have and just never released it here in the United States. I think that would have been cool. I mean, a video game nowadays would be sweet. Like, could you imagine like those open world Spider-Man games per se, but put the gargoyles like in that kind of thing where they're in New York and open world, and they could do a lot of different stuff with that. I think there's possibility, there's promise in that. It just depends who makes it. As far as a reboot or like a remake, um, I know the later seasons introduced like there were other gargoyle clans out in the world, so they don't
mhm.
necessarily have to focus on the ones we're familiar with, because like you said, some of the voice cast is gone or maybe might not want to come back. So my only problem with that would be um, kind of I wouldn't want them to directly like um, pick up right where they left off. Kind of maybe start with new gargoyles, but keep the mythos of the gargoyles, kind of the lore that's around them, maybe some of the villains, but maybe pretty much have a new cast. And then my other problem would be like, is it going to be, animated CGI? Is it going to be like a crazy
I'd
art
want
style?
it.
Like I would want them to keep
I
the art style.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna say I want them to keep a very similar art style. What they've done with Young Justice is actually really good. Young Justice came back after about 7 years, and they kept the same art style. Like they didn't change any of the art style. A lot of the voice actors came back, and that's what I'd want them to do with this. I would want it to keep it the same art style. But you're right. Like you can have like an older Lexington or like an older Broadway. Maybe make Broadway like the Hudson, and like Broadway's a little bit more jaded now because it's been 25 years since they've been in New York and everything like that. And maybe Goliath died from something, and that just kind of wrecked. And then you could have like Bronx or not Bronx, Brooklyn, who's maybe like out, like he's like alone. You could like split the crew, but you still have like this new cast of like younger gargoyles, but like you've also got the old cast that's kind of there, but they're kind of fractured. And not that I want them to like bring them
Mhm.
together, but like I feel like you could. Man, you've got a wrestling match going on behind you.
These guys, oh, it's the cats. Yeah,
But yeah, so I
yeah,
kind of I
no,
kind of think
I
that
like
that would
your
be
idea.
interesting. Yeah, like I kind of like that interesting mesh of, because if you bring Goliath back, he's going to demand, like as I said, he demands attention, and if you bring Goliath back, he's going to demand all that attention, and it's not going to let any of the new guys, get anything. So I would say maybe like explain
Mhm.
away, or at least bring him back. Maybe if they do it like a 25 year after, 25 years after, but I would like them to still explain what happened at the after season 3 ended when they ended on the cliffhanger. So, Xanatos's son could show up. It could be you could have John Delancey, who
Yeah,
plays Q, show up and be a villain. Like, just keep up the Star Trek references. Just keep them coming in. Have Scott Bakula
they
voice act the
certainly.
villain.
Yeah, they can introduce new villain and like they could bring back I forgot if he was dead, but like Cold Stone, they could put him on the actual
Oh
like
yeah,
regular roster.
yeah. Cold
Um,
Stone. I forgot about Cold Stone. Yeah, that was a cool. That was kind of like what on Ducktales. What was the robot? The duck guy with the wheel. I don't remember.
Gizmo or
Yeah,
Gizmod, yeah,
Gizmo,
something like
Gizmod or
that.
whatever.
Gizmo.
Oh, the puppy wants to love.
I
But yeah,
know. They got yeah.
um, so before we wrap this up, I mean, anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to throw out there for Gargoyles? We didn't talk about Detective Issa, right? I can never remember her name.
Yeah, you'd think that's bad after I just watched it. Eliza, I want to say, but we're gonna get
Eliza, yes.
corrected later.
Yeah,
but
the
we know
comments
it.
are
We know what
screaming.
it is.
I don't know anything to add
Um,
about Issa. I mean,
I like her.
she always. I see. I didn't like. It's not that I didn't like her. Uh, Elisa to me was like Broadway to you. Like I just didn't care for her. Like I get it. She was kind of like the us of this scenario. Like she's the human, so we're supposed to see everything through her eyes. So I understand that. But I just was like, what? Okay, whatever. A detective, uh, makes friends with gargoyles and arrests Xanatos. And I don't know. I mean, she was okay, and I know why she was there. But at the same time, I'm like, for me, like
Hmm.
she's not any. She's like the humans in Transformers, like just kind of just there to be humans. You know what I mean? Like, what's your job?
Right,
I'm human.
especially later on when they're facing, yeah, well, like later on when they're facing, like you said, like the pack when they become robots and whatnot. It's like, what's she gonna do? I'm gonna shoot you with my gun, you know? They start
Yeah,
facing
right.
like magic users and stuff. She can't really do anything. But um, yeah, I could see your point. I feel she added, I guess. Oh, and also I hate when they kind of did that subplot of like romantic interest with Goliath because I'm like,
Yeah. No, I would.
it's kind
Yeah.
of weird.
Wait, yeah, didn't he like turn human for a day or something like that? And like they were like googling, and she's like, "Oh, he's human
Yeah.
now." I'm like, don't pretend like you wouldn't jump on that gargoyle bone. I mean, come on, like it's stone during the day. At night.
Yeah, not everything's stone.
Yeah, right.
Uh,
Um, yeah, and here's the other thing is that if and I might be wrong on this, but I feel like because she had like in the '90s they did a lot of laser guns or Tommy guns, like very abstract looking guns. Like Batman the Animated Series had the Tommy guns, even though it was supposed to be set in modern time, like a hybrid modern, or '30s time. And then like
mhm.
Spider Man and X Men, they all did lasers. They all had laser guns, and stuff like that. But in this show, it was a actual looking gun, like it was a actual gun
Yeah.
in a cartoon, and I think that was actually. I feel and I'll be corrected in the comments, but I felt like that was pretty trendsetting at the time because they normally try to abstract guns just just so that they don't look like guns and like real life guns. But I mean, it looked like she
Right,
had
and
a
they certainly don't
real
fire them.
gun. Yeah, and I mean she did.
Yeah, and
Like
they don't fire them. They just like,
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I felt like this show did a lot in the way of it was basically to coin a Trek reference. It was basically the Deep Space Nine of like Disney cartoons of the '90s. Like it set a lot of different trends and kind of trailblazed for a lot of different things for the future. So I really enjoyed it. The show
Mhm.
in general. Um, I don't know. Anything else you want to add? I mean,
I was just gonna add, yeah, like you said, where it was like trend setting, and I'm surprised. Like for me personally, I think I found it on UPN, so it wasn't even on the like normal basic cable channel. So I kind of discovered it by accident at first, and then yeah, it just wasn't like mainstream popular. Maybe I missed it. I know they had toys out and stuff, but like it never reached even near the limit or the heights of like a Ninja Turtles or anything else that was kind of out in the 90s. So that was kind of disappointing because I'm like, it's good.
mhm. I own all of it on. I think I own all of it on DVD. Like I was able to get like some of the, and I know I haven't watched it in ages, and I really should. But and now it's on Disney Plus, and I can watch it on there. So I tried to get my kids to watch it. I was hoping to watch it with my kids, and they kind of didn't care for it,
Hmm.
unfortunately. So they just don't know good television.
Oh, but it's so good.
Yeah, I know. Well, they
They'll
don't know what
learn.
they're missing out on. Yeah, right. Um, all right. Well, I think this was a great discussion block. Thank you very much for this. Was Block asked me to, kind of join him for a Gargoyles chat, and we could kind of talk about it and go through it. I'd love to do this again. Maybe after I have a chance to rewatch the series, we can go back and do like a retrospective where we kind of break down all the things or something like that. Or if you guys down in the comments want to ask us to maybe, because I mean, me and Block were definitely kids of the '90s, leave a comment. We can talk about Ghostbusters, Turtles, um, Samurai Jack was more 2000s, right? Um,
Yeah, biker mice from Mars.
SWAT cats, Street Sharks. I mean,
Yeah, Street Sharks. Oh yeah.
so GI Joe, Transformers. I mean, I loved Beast Wars, like Beast Wars,
Oh yeah,
Dinobots,
that was
or
good.
I would talk Beast Wars to death. I loved it. I'd have to watch it again. I haven't watched it in a long time, but
That had a
and I
good
own it.
story too as it got into it. But yeah.
Mhm. So anyway, with that all being said, everybody, please give us a comment down below. If you haven't already, hit that like button and consider subscribing to NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you've never heard of. I'm Cousin Cheeto. I'm joined by the Block, and we will catch you guys in the next one. Catch you later.